I'm gonna get a lot of hate for this. Hi, my name is Kimberly, better known as Derek's wife, and most recently, according to local townspeople, the girl with no career. Welcome to my very first episode of this podcast. I'm so glad that you're here. Buckle up because you're in. First things first, this podcast is for the girlies who are feeling maybe like they're a little late in life, feeling like they've got less than 30 minutes, 30 to get it together, to figure out what they want to do with their lives. The girls who feel like maybe they missed their moment, the girls who didn't go to college straight out of high school and now they're in their 30s and trying to figure out what the heck they're doing with their life. Yeah, that's me. Hi, welcome. I'm about to drop some lore, and this is where the hate might come in. So we lost our dog about a week ago now, a couple days over a week. And it's our fault. We take full responsibility. We live in a town where a lot of people let their dogs run loose. Unfortunately, it is only a problem when we let our dogs run loose. But nonetheless, that is our fault. We should have been better pet parents, more responsible pet parents. We shouldn't have let him roam free. So that is completely 100% on us. We take full responsibility for that, and we know that him missing is our fault. We fully take responsibility for that. So I need to state that before I move forward with the rest of this. With that being said, I was so afraid to post on our local Facebook page. My husband was even like, no, don't do it. Like, people are just going to talk like trash, even if they don't say it on the post. It's going to be like around town. So I hesitated. I did not post. And then the next day when he still wasn't home, I was like, no, like it is what it is. Like, it is what it is. He's our dog. We miss him. And that's the only way that I'm going to get the word out and like get more eyes on him. So I got on there, posted, and I said, I know that I might get a lot of, crap for this, but our dog is missing. Has anyone seen him? And then this is where it all starts to take a turn. So my post is up. People are wondering, have you found him? Like, I just saw some dogs go past my house. So far, I'm not getting any flack for this. But nonetheless, here comes little Kyle. Here comes Kyle. This guy that I don't know. He's not from here. To me, it looked like a fake account, like an account made to just troll me. Goes on there and is like, this is why cities should have leash laws. And it's like, okay, great. That's so helpful. That's not helpful now. Of course, hindsight is 2020. Do we wish that we would have only let him out on a leash? Of course, yeah. Do we wish that we would have patched our fence better in the spots that it's broken? Yes, of course. We never would have thought that he would go missing. This is a small town of maybe 1,200 people. Like, dogs don't just go missing here. And so he would always come home. He would always come home. And I know that that's like not the point, but he would always come home. So we never in a million years thought that he would get lost. So this guy is like saying things, and I'm like, okay, great. That's super helpful. Not. So then I decided to post in another page, and this page is like the closest city to us. And I'm just thinking, the more eyes we have, the wider, the broader the search can be. So this guy requests to also be in this page just to come and comment on my post and tell everyone, I've seen this little 3-legged dog around. My young sons and I have had to feed it because it is appeared to be starving. And I'm like, I assure you, he was never starving. And so he starts coming in and like, basically talking down on us as, pet owners and stuff, which we've already given ourselves the, 5th degree for this. We have made ourselves feel worse than anybody could make us feel. So I'm like, okay, whatever. Again, his page looked like a fake account. So I said, okay, Mr. Army worker, because the entire time he's claiming to be a farmer out here, and his page just says works at U.S. Army. And like, if you know, now conveniently I can no longer find the page, and all the comments have been deleted. But he proceeded to tell me that people like me shouldn't disrespect the military, and people like me shouldn't look down on the military, which I never was. I was simply implying that his account seemed to be fake. He's claimed to be a farmer, and then his page says works at U.S. Army. So to me, I'm just like, seems a little fishy, Kyle. So I hop off. I hop back on and I let him know, like, I would never disrespect the military. My dad served in the Navy. My grandfather served in the Marines. We've got family members who have served in quite literally every branch. I would never disrespect the military. So then he goes on to tell me, I guess because I called him Mr. Army Worker, he decided to pop in with, well, as our president would say, our president, Mr. Trump, Miss Piggy, and then decided to tell me that I shouldn't be. Mind you, I have no idea who's behind this account, but I'm like, oink oink. I know someone who looks like they are a character on Arthur is Not Talking. And then immediately the Holy Spirit was like, girl, you better not say that. So I was like, okay. Yes, Lord, I have been delivered from this. I will not say anything like that. And he's like, that's right. Let my blessing speak for you. And I was like, period. Yes. Okay. Yeah. And so something that has been on my heart lately was instantly confirmed by the Lord himself. The next comment out of this guy's fingers was, people like you shouldn't make fun of people in the military because according to local townspeople, you have no career. Was I offended? Absolutely not. No one has told me that more than I've told myself. I've told myself, you have no career, you've amounted to nothing, you peaked in high school, and all you're ever going to be is someone's wife and someone's mom. I've told myself this more than I could count. Was I offended? Absolutely not. I was taken aback, however, by learning that trophy wife is no longer considered a career. I mean, I grew up with the Real Housewives. I grew up with the Girls Next Door. I grew up with Playboy Bunny being a literal career. So I kind of thought that trophy wife was my career. So yeah, I was a little taken back, but insulted? No, absolutely not. I wasn't insulted because they don't know, this person, whoever is behind this account, and the local townspeople, they don't know that this wasn't always the plan. This wasn't the dream. I didn't grow up saying, okay, I'm going to let a man support me and I'm going to have 3 kids by the time I am 23 and I'm going to live in the middle of nowhere. That's the dream. Absolutely not. It was not the dream. My dream was to graduate from the little town that I lived in, head far east as I could possibly go. I wanted to go to New York City. I was going to bartend my way through college because I grew up poor, so there was no money for my family to help me out to do that. I was going to be a writer, and I was going to work for a magazine, some famous magazine down in like Times Square. I was going to be the it girl. I mean, I grew up with J14. I grew up with People magazine. I grew up with stopping in the grocery line and reading all the magazines. We couldn't even afford to like get one, but I would stand there while my mom shopped, and then while she paid, looking at them. Being a writer was always the dream until someone kind of like crushed my spirit and was like, what are you going to do with a degree in journalism? That's pretty unrealistic. There's no money in it. It's a dying field. And I guess at the time they were right, because it was right on the brink of like Y2K and social, like not social media, but the internet was popping off. Newspapers were dying. It was kind of like the end of an era, right? But we didn't know like how big social media was going to be. We didn't know how big the internet was going to be. Nobody could have fathomed what a degree in journalism would mean. Like, so I gave up that dream and I thought of other dreams. Maybe I'll be a cosmetologist. I like doing hair. I enjoy makeup. Maybe I'll do that. Nope, you can't do that. That's a hobby. Okay. Well, I really am taking an interest in photography. I really like that. I feel like it's a way that I can express myself and it's artistic and it's something that I enjoy. Nope, that's also a hobby. Why would you do that? You're not going to make any money with that. Okay. So now I have no dreams. And the only attention that I'm getting is from boys that wouldn't have even been seen in the light of day with me. But attention was attention. So, of course, I ran with it. Who doesn't like attention? And yeah, you guessed it. I ended up being a teen mom at 16 years old. And now I had a purpose. And now I had something to prove. So I graduated high school early. I headed off to college, not knowing anyone else that was in college. Never even knowing anyone that went to college. But here I was off on this adventure with a newborn child, no money to my name, so had to get a full-time job. So now I'm going to school full-time, working full time, and I am a full-time mom, a full-time single mom. And it just, nothing was working. But at the top of my list was my daughter. At the top of my list was being a good mom. There was no way that I was going to allow my mom to raise her, to raise my child. So I quit school because I also wasn't going to allow anyone to support us financially. So I quit school to work full time and to be the best mom that I knew how to be. And then flash forward a few years, I go back to school and I have a good job at a hotel. I mean, it pays $8 an hour, and $8 an hour is a lot in 2013 for a single mom. So I had this good job. It was amazing. I loved it. I worked at a hotel. It was I pretty much like ran the whole thing, or at least I felt like I did. So I did that for a while, and then working there, being surrounded by people who were going to school and, you know, doing these big things in life, I decided, I think I want to go back to school. But I had to quit the hotel because the hotel couldn't work with my hours. So I get a job at a local coffee shop. Love it. Absolutely love it. But I live an hour away from where I work. And so I decide to quit. But by this time, I've already met my now husband, and we decide to move to his hometown. So we move here. My daughter starts school. We have no family within 30 minutes from us. We're all alone here. So I stay home. There's no jobs here. What else am I going to do? We get married. We have a baby. 2 years later, we have another baby. So I'm like, okay, this is it. Like, I am staying home. Mind you, kids were never even in my plan. Marriage was never even in my plan. So this is all new to me. And I'm like, what did I do? Like, this is crazy. Like, I never in a million years. But I've been married for 11 years now. And in those 11 years, I've never once felt any sort of resentment towards my kids. I've never felt any sort of resentment towards my husband. Even though this wasn't the plan, I knew that it was God's plan. And I knew that this was all I knew that this was God saying, if you do this, you cannot even imagine what I have for you on the other side. So I decided, okay. And it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy to say, okay, I'm going to be obedient to what God is asking of me. It was hard. I struggled. I struggled with postpartum depression. I struggled with being not enough for my husband, not enough for my kids. How am I qualified to do this? I struggled with seeing everyone else go on and live their lives and doing what they wanted to do, and people my age graduating college and becoming doctors and becoming, you know, financially stable and having these careers and all these things. So when all of our kids were finally in school, I decided, hey, you know what? There is this coffee shop that I went to once when the girls were little. The lady said, hey, if you're ever looking for a job, you know, come talk to me. So I did. And it was probably one of the best things that could have happened to me. Going back to work helped me find myself. Going back to work helped me remember that I want things in life, that I do want things in life, and that I can achieve things, and that I don't have to settle. But at the same time, I also got these feelings like, yeah, but who are you? Who are you? You have zero experience. All you've ever done in your life is be a waitress or a barista. So what skills do you have? You're just a mom. You're just a mom. Who would hire you? Why would anyone give you a chance? You have no skills. And so I repeated this to myself over and over and over every day that I would see someone come through the coffee shop that was like, had their life together. You know what I mean? Every time that somebody close to me would have a big achievement, not to make it about me, but it always just kind of reminded me where I wasn't. And that kind of stings. That kind of stings when you have to like kind of look at yourself and be like, you've done nothing. But the reality of it was that the past 10 years have not been nothing. The past 10 years have been God orchestrating my life for something bigger. And deep down, I've always known it. Deep down, I've known in my heart that the Lord has this plan for me, this plan that no one else can picture, this plan that everyone else thinks is crazy. And see, that's the thing. When you are called to do something by Christ himself, when the Lord puts a calling on your life, no one else can see that calling, and you're going to look crazy. you're going to look crazy to everyone. So yeah, I'm 32 years old. I have no career. But if you've ever had a calling from the Lord on your life, you know how crazy it sounds. You know how you don't even want to say it out loud because you know that people are going to be like, you want to do what now? Come on, be for real. Be for real. Find a big girl job. Find a big boy job. That's silly. That is a dream. And like, no, that's not going to pay your bills. That's not going to pay your rent. You know, my favorite example of this is Tabitha Brown. Tabitha Brown believed that the Lord had a calling on her life, believed that she was meant to be famous. She didn't know how, I mean, she was going and she was getting small gigs here, she was getting small gigs there. Nothing was really playing out. And then she makes a TikTok video during COVID, during quarantine, about a vegan sandwich. And that is how she popped off at the age of 38, mind you. So she wasn't spring chicken. I am 32. And for people to sit up here and be like, she has no career, this, and that, is crazy, because you do not know the calling that the Lord has on my life. I had a dream. I had a plan. And he wrecked that. He wrecked my plans because he had bigger and better plans for me. I had to become a wife to learn patience, to learn understanding, to learn communication. I had to become a mother of these 3 beautiful children because that's where he needed me in that season. That's where he needed me in that moment. That is where I was needed. I wasn't needed on a college campus. I wasn't needed in a classroom. I wasn't needed as a nurse in a hospital or any of these other things that I couldn't even fathom doing. Once my kids all went back to school, something was placed on my heart that I didn't know what it was going to be. I didn't know, but I knew that God had this plan for me. And truly, 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 I believe that this podcast is God's calling for me, not only for me, but for you, for everyone out there who is a little bit late on life, for everyone out there who is in their late 30s, who's in their early 40s, and still following that dream that you know God has promised you. And one thing about God, if he promises it to you, he's going to deliver it. And one thing about his promises to you and his plans to you, nobody will believe them, but nobody can stop him either. Nobody, not a single person, can come between you and what God has for you. And no one can take that away from you. And I truly believe that. And it took me a while. It took me a while to get here. But I truly believe in that. And I think the fact that I truly believe that now, I think that this is going to be such a blessing moving forward. And if this flops, I don't know what I'm going to do, because I'm not going back to school. But don't let this flop. So don't let this flop, because this is for everyone who didn't follow a timeline, who knew that they were meant for more, who still know that they're meant for more, who have a dream that never became reality, but you still can't quite shake it. This is for my parents, who are really well off now, but struggled. My parents didn't pop off and make their money until they were in their late 30s, early 40s. And now they're jet setting. They're going on trips 5 times a year. My parents had to move to a totally place that they've never been, place that they did not grow up in, 2-3 hours away from where they have always lived, just to find jobs. My dad was sleeping in the car. My mom was living in a rundown area. It was crazy. My parents have now been able to pay for not just me, but me and my husband to go to New York, because it's always been my dream. So for my 30th birthday, they paid for us to go to New York. They paid for everything. They paid for lake houses for us to stay in, on our entire family. On Christmas, they go all out. If you put it on your list, they get it for you. That is the level that they're at right now in their life. But they weren't always at that level. We used to have to stretch. At one point, they lived in a 2-bedroom apartment with 3 teenagers. So Like, they weren't on timeline. They weren't on the timeline that everyone thinks that we have to be on. And if you're not on that either, it's totally okay. It's perfectly fine.
Go.
A couple weekends ago, I watched Hillary Duff on the Jake Shane podcast on YouTube, and I really enjoyed it. She was talking a lot about her career, how she, after 10 years, she came out with a new song, and it is amazing. I don't know how it perfectly encapsulates that millennial feeling of back when she was on TV, and somehow everything that you want now that you're older. But it is amazing, and she was talking about how some people like didn't even know that she sang and things like that. And then she said that people come up to her a lot, and they're like, "Oh, like, I love you. You were my entire childhood," and that she has to remind herself, like, it's okay. They've seen, like, you've done other things. People love other things that you've done. It's just that Lizzie McGuire is always going to be, like, your most iconic role, which is fair and fine. But I resonated with that so much because I was like, yeah, being a wife and mom is always going to be my most iconic role. I am always going to be Derek's wife. I am always going to be Carson's mom. I'm always going to be Cameron's mom, Kellen's mom. I'm always going to be that stay-at-home mom. I'm always going to be the girl with no career. Even though I've had a successful sewing business where I was making $50 an hour, I've had a successful photography business that I just ended up giving up because I have ADHD and I quit everything. I've had a successful cleaning business, and I've done numerous things throughout the time that I've lived in this town. But I guess no matter what, I'm always going to be wife and mom, and that's okay. I'm okay with that. And I think that because I'm okay with that, because remember, I wasn't always okay with that. I think that knowing that that'll always be my most iconic roles is kind of comforting, because honestly, that is going to be like the most important thing that I ever do in this life. And the fact that God like called me to do that and is now calling me to do something else, who am I, you know? And it's so crazy because back then, had God given me all the blessings that he has in store for me, I wouldn't have been able to appreciate it, because I was like, who am I? Like, who am I? I'm just a single mom with no job. I dropped out of college. I have nothing going for me. Who am I? Like, even my husband felt too good to be true. And I never felt like I was good enough to even be his wife, because who was I? And now I'm like, who am I? Like, who am I that God has allowed me to have such a blessing in my life, to be like this mom? How is it that I was able to stay home and learn to appreciate this role that I have been blessed in, that not everybody gets to be blessed with? And on top of that, I still have blessings coming. And that's like so crazy to me, because my life is just beginning. And I'm still doing the important work. I'm still always going to be a mom and wife first. But at the end of the day, I'm perfectly okay with being the girl with no career, because I've had the greatest calling all my life. And if my life were to end today, I would like look back and be so happy. So what was meant to tear me down is just the beginning. I plan to have people on this podcast who maybe got their start a little late in life, who maybe didn't graduate college until they were in their 40s, who maybe didn't get their master's degrees until they were in their 50s. I plan to have people on this show who are living proof that when there is a calling on your life, and when you know that you have a dream and you are meant for something, that nothing and no one can stop that, and that there is no timeline. You are on your own timeline, and you will get to what you are meant for when it is time for you to be there. And everything else is just the setup. Everything else is just the prep. Everything else has to be done in order for you to be fully ready to receive what the Lord has for you. So I cannot wait to get this podcast going. I cannot wait for you guys to hear what our guests have to say. I am just so excited, and please don't let this flop. Thank you. Love you. Bye.